They chose her engagement party over my wedding. Every single one of them. But when I cut that cake with my husband by my side, surrounded by strangers who became family, I realized I'd already won. I'm Jessica, 32 years old, and what should have been the most beautiful day of my life turned into something I never expected. When I walked down that aisle, the entire family section sat empty. 15 chairs, all reserved, all vacant. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, this story is for you. Hit subscribe if you want to see how this ends, because karma works in mysterious ways. By the end of this, you'll see why sometimes the family we choose matters more than the family we're born into. I grew up as the oldest of 3 kids. My parents always called me their responsible one, their rock, the daughter they could count on. My sister Meredith is 5 years younger, a stunning Instagram model with 150,000 followers. She's always been the golden child, the one who made our parents proud just by existing. Then there's Tommy, my little brother, 25 now, caught somewhere in the middle of our family's dysfunction. From the time I was 22, I've been the family's emergency fund. When my parents maxed out their credit cards, I worked 2 jobs and delayed college to help them pay off $18,000 in debt. I told myself it was temporary, that I was doing the right thing. At 25, when Mom needed surgery, I emptied my savings account. $12,000 gone in a single check. My boyfriend at the time wanted to get engaged, but I had to tell him we needed to wait. He didn't wait. 3 years of dating ended because I chose my family over my future. When I turned 28, I finally met someone who saw me for who I really was. But Meredith needed money to launch her beauty brand, and my parents asked if I could postpone my wedding. Just for a year, they promised. Just until Meredith gets established. I said yes. I always said yes. That's what the responsible daughter does, right? Nobody ever thanked me. Not once. Every sacrifice was treated like it was expected, like I owed them my entire life because they raised me. I remember being 10 years old sitting at the kitchen table while my parents told me I needed to understand that Meredith was younger, that I was the big sister, that I had to be mature. I learned early that my needs came last. Christmas 2019 stands out in my memory. Meredith unwrapped keys to a brand new Lexus, squealing with delight while our parents beamed. I got a thank you card. Not even a gift card inside, just a card that said they appreciated everything I did for the family. I smiled, hugged them, told them it was perfect. Inside, something cracked a little more. I became the backbone nobody thanked, the ATM nobody remembered. Every time I tried to build something for myself, another family emergency appeared. But I kept hoping that one day they'd see me, really see me. Meredith's privilege wasn't subtle. Every accomplishment got amplified into legend. When she hit 10,000 followers on Instagram, my parents threw her a party. When I got my teaching degree after years of night classes, they said congratulations over dinner and changed the subject. Meredith's mistakes were always excused with she's still young or she needs time to find herself. My mistakes, the few I made, required immediate correction and lengthy lectures about responsibility. My parents funded her education at Parsons School of Design, $150,000 without blinking. They helped her rent an apartment in Manhattan. They called it an investment in her influencer career. When I asked for help with my student loans, they said I should have chosen a more practical career path than teaching. Everything changed when I met David. I was 30, exhausted from a decade of putting everyone else first, and I'd almost given up on finding someone who understood me. We matched on a dating app, met for coffee, and talked for 4 hours. David's a software engineer, practical and steady, but he sees the world differently than my family does. He sees me differently. 2 years into our relationship, David proposed at the coffee shop where we had our first date. It was perfect and simple and everything I dreamed of. When I told my parents, my mother's first question was, "How much does he make?" Not, "Are you happy?" Not, "Tell us about him." Just a calculation of his financial value. We set the date for June 15th, 2024. A small venue, 80 guests, nothing extravagant. I'd learned not to expect my family to contribute, so David and I paid for everything ourselves. I was finally doing something just for me, making a choice that centered my happiness. It felt strange and wonderful and terrifying. 2 weeks after I announced my wedding date, Meredith called a family meeting. She'd gotten engaged to Marcus, a 29-year-old entrepreneur whose father owns a successful tech startup. She was glowing, radiant, already planning an elaborate celebration. Then she said the words that changed everything. "We're thinking June 15th for the engagement party. The Plaza Hotel in New York. 200 guests, all the important people in Marcus's family's business circle." I felt the room shift. My mother's eyes lit up with excitement. My father leaned forward, already calculating networking opportunities. I watched them forget I existed for 30 seconds before someone remembered. Meredith looked at me with what she probably thought was sympathy. "You can change your date, right, Jess? This is really important for my future." My mother jumped in immediately. "You understand, don't you, honey? An engagement party at the Plaza is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Your wedding is just family anyway. You can move it to July or August. Plenty of summer dates left." I looked at my father, hoping he'd say something, anything, to acknowledge that this was my wedding they were asking me to reschedule. Again. He avoided my eyes. "It would mean a lot to your sister, Jessica. And honestly, the connections Marcus's father could provide for our family, it's too important to miss." David squeezed my hand under the table. He'd been quiet through the whole conversation, letting me handle my family the way I always did, but I felt his support, his steady presence reminding me that I had a choice. "It's your choice, Jess," he said quietly, "but I think it's time you choose yourself." I took a breath. The old Jessica would have said yes immediately, would have called the venue before leaving the table, would have apologized for the inconvenience. But something in me was different now. I kept my wedding date. The fallout was immediate. My mother called it selfish. My father said I was being unreasonable. Meredith cried and said I was ruining the most important moment of her life. But I stood firm. June 15th was my date. I'd already postponed once. I wasn't doing it again. What I didn't know then was that decision would cost me everything and give me everything all at once. 4 weeks before my wedding, I mailed 15 invitations to my family. My parents, Meredith, Tommy, 3 aunts and uncles, 6 cousins. I included a handwritten note in each one, telling them how much it would mean to have them there. The same day, Meredith's engagement party invitations arrived, glossy and expensive, announcing the celebration at the Plaza. My father called 3 days later. "Jessica, you know your mother and I have to attend Meredith's party. It's important for the family's future. You understand that, right?" "But Dad, it's my wedding day." He sighed like I was being difficult. "You're already getting married, sweetheart. Meredith's engagement only happens once. Besides, Marcus's family expects us there. It's a networking opportunity we can't pass up." "I'm your daughter too," I said, hating how small my voice sounded. "Of course you are, but you've always been the understanding one. Don't start being difficult now." He hung up before I could respond. My mother's response came via text. "Honey, I hope you know how much we love you, but we really must attend Meredith's party. You're already practically married anyway, living together and all. This is just a formality. Let's do a nice dinner when you get back from your honeymoon instead." Tommy called, his voice tight with guilt. "Jess, I know this is messed up, but I have to go with Mom and Dad. I'm sorry. I tried to argue, but they're not listening. I'm really sorry." Then Sarah, my best friend of 10 years, sent a message that broke something inside me. "Jessica, I need to talk to you. Marcus's dad offered me a job opportunity, but I have to be at the engagement party for the interview. I know the timing is terrible, but this could change my life. You understand, right? You always understand." I stared at my phone, reading her words over and over. "You're choosing a job interview over my wedding? Over 10 years of friendship?" Her response came quickly. "Don't be dramatic. It's just one day. We'll celebrate after. This is about my future." One by one, the RSVPs came back. 0 out of 15 family members attending. The excuses varied, but the message was clear. Meredith's party was more important than my wedding. I was less important, again. I could have canceled. The venue would have understood, but something in me refused to back down. "I'm getting married on June 15th, I told David. With or without them, The week before the wedding, I had my final dress fitting. I stood on the platform in the bridal shop, staring at myself in the mirror, and suddenly couldn't breathe. The seamstress, Mrs. Chen, noticed immediately. She was 68, had owned the shop for 40 years, and had a way of seeing through people's carefully constructed walls. She sent her assistant away and sat me down with tea. "My family didn't come to my wedding either," she said quietly. 40 years ago, my parents wanted me to marry someone else. Someone richer, more connected. I married for love instead. They boycotted the wedding, told everyone I was an embarrassment. "What did you do?" I asked. "I married him anyway, had the wedding with his family and our friends. And you know what I remember most? Not who wasn't there. I remember who showed up. I remember the people who chose me." She patted my hand. 40 years later, I still think I made the right choice. Before I left, I did something impulsive. "Mrs. Chen, would you come to my wedding? I'd like someone there who understands." She smiled, eyes bright with tears. "I'd be honored, sweetheart." The morning of June 15th arrived. I woke up at 6, checked my phone, and found 0 messages from my family. Not a single good luck text, no acknowledgement that today was my wedding day. David's mother, Linda, arrived at 8 to help me get ready. She hugged me tightly and whispered, "You look beautiful, sweetheart. I'm honored to stand where your mother should be." My makeup artist, a woman in her 30s, noticed my red eyes. "Crying already? We haven't even done the mascara yet." "My mom didn't come," I said, trying to sound casual. "She chose my sister's party instead." The artist paused, brush in hand. Her expression softened. "My mom wasn't at my wedding either. Different reason, but same pain." She squeezed my shoulder. "But look, I survived, made a good life. You will too." At 10 o'clock, I arrived at the venue. The family section looked exactly as I'd arranged it. 15 empty chairs with small reserved signs. They sat in neat rows, a monument to absence. David's best man, James, approached me carefully. "Want me to take those signs down? Nobody needs to see that." I looked at the empty seats for a long moment. No. Leave them. They made their choice. Let it be visible. At 2 o'clock, the processional music started. In traditional weddings, the father walks his daughter down the aisle. I stood at the back of the venue alone, holding my bouquet so tightly my knuckles turned white. I could have asked David's father or Tommy if he'd been there, or even James. But something made me want to do this myself. I walked down that aisle alone, head high, even though my legs shook with every step. 65 people stood as I passed. They didn't applaud. Instead, they gave me a standing ovation of silent respect. Colleagues from school, David's family and friends, neighbors who'd watched me grow up, Mrs. Chen from the dress shop, people who chose to be there, people who saw me. When I reached David, his eyes were wet. "You're the bravest person I know," he whispered. The ceremony was simple and perfect. When it came time for vows, David took my hands. "Jessica, your family taught you to be small, to take up less space, to put everyone else first. I promise to spend every day showing you how magnificent you actually are. I promise to choose you first, every single time." My voice shook when I spoke. "David, you're the first person who chose me first, who saw me, really saw me, and decided I was worth staying for. That's all I'll ever need." We kissed, and the small crowd erupted in genuine celebration, not because of fancy decorations or expensive venues, but because something real had just happened. 2 people choosing each other, witnessed by people who actually cared. The reception was intimate and warm. Our first dance wasn't perfect. We stepped on each other's feet twice. But it was ours. Toasts came from David's brother, from my principal, from Mrs. Chen, who told everyone how we met. Real moments with real people. At 4:30, we cut the cake, a simple 3-tier design, vanilla with raspberry filling. David fed me a bite carefully, laughing when frosting dotted my nose. I was laughing too, caught up in the moment, when I noticed my phone lighting up on the gift table. I'd left it there deliberately, not wanting anything to interrupt the ceremony. But even from across the room, I could see the screen flooding with notifications, one after another after another. David noticed my expression. "You don't have to look," he said. Today is ours. But curiosity pulled me forward. I picked up the phone and saw 52 missed calls. 52. All within the last 30 minutes. Text messages flooded the screen, most from my mother. Call me back. Now! Jessica, pick up the phone. This is urgent. We need to talk. Call me. The last message, sent 2 minutes ago, made my hands tremble. We need to talk. Now! David appeared beside me. What's wrong? I showed him the screen. He exhaled slowly. Whatever they want, whatever happened, it's already too late. They made their choice. Let them live with it. I looked at him, then at the room full of people who'd shown up for us, then back at my phone exploding with desperate messages from people who'd chosen to be somewhere else. I turned the phone face down on the table. You're right. Today is ours. Whatever they want can wait. What I didn't know then was that while we'd been cutting our cake, everything at Meredith's engagement party had been falling apart. While I was surrounded by love, my family was surrounded by consequences. While I was celebrating with people who chose me, they were discovering what it felt like to be exposed. But that story was unfolding 200 miles away at the Plaza Hotel, where 200 guests were learning exactly what kind of family would skip their daughter's wedding. At noon, while I was walking down the aisle, my parents arrived at the plaza with Tommy and Sarah in tow. The ballroom glittered with champagne towers and ice sculptures. Meredith looked radiant in a designer cocktail dress. Marcus's father, Robert Chin, greeted them warmly, shaking my father's hand with practiced politeness. Small talk flowed easily. Business connections were made. My mother basked in the elegance of it all, already mentally cataloging details to share with her friends. Around 1:30, Marcus's mother, Patricia, arrived late, her expression serious. She pulled Robert aside, and those nearby noticed their urgent whispered conversation. Robert's welcoming smile slowly faded as Patricia spoke, gesturing toward my family. At 2 o'clock, exactly when I was exchanging vows, Robert stood to make a toast. He thanked everyone for coming to celebrate Marcus and Meredith. Family is everything, isn't it? He said, raising his glass. He paused, his eyes scanning the room until they landed on my parents. Speaking of family, I'm curious. Where is Meredith's sister today? My mother's practiced smile flickered. She had a prior commitment. Robert's expression remained pleasant, but his tone shifted. A prior commitment. How interesting. My wife just informed me of something. He turned to Meredith. Is your sister getting married right now, at this very moment? The ballroom went silent. Meredith's face flushed red. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Marcus looked confused, turning to her with questions in his eyes. My father tried to salvage the situation. It's complicated. Family dynamics, you understand. Jessica knew we needed to be here for Meredith's important day. Robert set down his glass carefully. So, your daughter is getting married, and her entire family chose to attend an engagement party instead. He let that sink in. Patricia mentioned family values were non-negotiable for our family. I'm trying to understand how this aligns with those values. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Guests checked phones, leaned toward each other with raised eyebrows. Marcus's young cousin, 15 years old and glued to her phone, suddenly gasped. Oh my God, Aunt Patricia, look at this. She held up her phone, showing a photo that was rapidly going viral on social media. It was from my wedding. The image showed me walking down the aisle alone, the empty family section visible in the foreground. The caption read, "Most beautiful wedding I've ever attended." Bride walked herself down the aisle because her entire family chose her sister's engagement party instead. My heart is broken for her, but so proud of her strength. The post already had 2 million views and climbing. Comments flooded in from strangers moved by the image. This is my worst fear. I'm literally crying. Her family should be ashamed of themselves. She deserves so much better. Patricia took the phone and read, her expression hardening. She showed it to Robert. Within minutes, dozens of guests had seen it, shared it, added their own commentary. The viral post spread through the engagement party like wildfire. Robert stood again, his previous warmth completely gone. I need to understand something. Your daughter is getting married at this very moment, Walking down an aisle alone because you're all here. Is that correct? My mother's composure cracked. She's always been understanding. She knew this party was important for Meredith's future. Patricia spoke up, her voice cutting. Understanding? Or trained to accept being second choice her entire life? There's a difference. The tension became unbearable. Several guests stood and quietly left, not wanting to be associated with the situation. Within 20 minutes, a third of the attendees had departed. Those who remained whispered behind hands, their judgment palpable. Marcus pulled Meredith aside into a quiet corner. Did you know about this? That your sister's wedding was today? Meredith's practiced confidence wavered. It's not a big deal. Jessica's wedding is tiny, just a few people. This party is important for your father's business connections, for our future. Marcus stared at her like he was seeing someone new. You told me family always comes first for you. That's what I loved about you. But apparently that's only true when it's convenient. It's different, Meredith insisted, but her voice lacked conviction. I don't think it is, Marcus said quietly and walked away. The party limped forward, but the celebration had died. Guests left early. Business contacts made polite excuses. My parents sat at their table, watching their grand networking opportunity crumble around them. My mother's phone started ringing, then my father's, then Meredith's. Family members who'd heard about the viral post, friends who'd seen the comments, colleagues who couldn't believe the story. The 52 calls to me started around 4:15, right when David and I were cutting our cake. Sarah, my former best friend, watched her own phone explode with notifications. Mutual friends had seen the viral post. They'd noticed her absence in the wedding photos. Her Instagram comments filled with angry messages. You chose a job interview over your best friend's wedding? How could you? Unfollow. The job opportunity Marcus's father had dangled evaporated that afternoon. Robert found Sarah before she left. We hire people with integrity, he said simply. I don't think you're the right fit for our company after all. By 5 o'clock, my mother's desperation reached its peak. She'd called me 52 times, each attempt going to voicemail. Finally, she texted, We need to talk. Now. As if demanding my attention could undo what they'd done. But I was 200 miles away, phone face down on a gift table, dancing with my husband surrounded by people who'd chosen me. I didn't know about the viral post yet. I didn't know my story had touched millions of people. I didn't know that while I was celebrating the best day of my life, my family was experiencing the consequences of their choices in real time. All I knew was that I'd made a decision to choose myself, and somehow, despite the empty chairs and absent family, I felt more loved than I ever had in their presence. The family I'd chosen, the strangers who'd become friends, had given me something my blood relatives never could. The feeling of being genuinely valued. The 52 missed calls could wait. My happiness couldn't.